Alright, so good morning and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Prince Mulbah, and we here this morning in the company of Anthony Oscar Bloh, the chairperson of the Election Water Living Committee in Liberia. We've come to get his expert opinion on election matters and the current amendment of the election law and issues that surround election period in our country. So let me say, Anthony Bloh, good morning, welcome to Focus on Liberia. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing okay. And thanks for the opportunity.
Alright, so for the benefit of the viewer, who is Anthony Oscar Bloh?
My name is Oscar Bloh. I'm a counselor at law at the Supreme Court of the Republic of Liberia. I serve as the chairperson of the Elections Committee, and this is a network of 7 civil society organizations, the largest national domestic observation group, and we've been operating since 2010, and we've observed the 2011 elections, the 2014 special senatorial elections, the 2017 elections, and several other by-elections, and we just ended special senatorial election in 2020. We've been working in partnership with the National Democratic Institute and currently with the Democracy International, and we are financially supported by USAID.
Alright, so what are the specific you look for as election coordinating committee? What are some of the things you like to see when there are elections in Liberia?
Firstly, elections are grounded in laws, and it is a legal basis that sets the framework on how credible elections will turn out to be. And so we start our observation with high law advocacy to ensure that the electoral laws are amended based on our previous observations in previous elections to bring the outcomes of those observations to help improve the election law so that they are relevant to the current political reality.
Alright, so let's talk more. Our focus now will focus more on the current amendment that is ongoing at the legislature. I'm sure you are abreast with that. Let's take it from this perspective, the law in totality. How do you look at it? The amendment process.
I've reviewed the portions that were proposed to be amended, and we do support the certain provisions in there. And for instance, the public vetting of the future commissioners that will be on the board of the MEC. That recommendation actually came from the ECC and based on the previous observation report of 2017. So that process we think is healthy, and it allows to increase transparency and credibility around the appointment of members of the board of commissioners of the MEC. However, we're quite worried about the additional amendment, which states that 90 days after the amendment comes into effect, the magistrates and the executive director of the MEC, those positions will be considered vacant. And the magistrates then who have interest in reapply. And that is troubling for us. And we've made a public statement calling on members of the House of Representatives not to support the passage of that particular amendment.
If you say troubling, why can you explain that? I mean, what is wrong with that? They're saying that if a law is passed and signed by the president, the magistrate should resign and reapply. So what is the troubling aspect on that?
Whenever a law is passed or an existing law is amended, it is intended to address a problem. We have not heard from the Senate what is the problem that the amendment will address? Because if it is an institutional problem, my wonder is that why didn't the law say we dissolve the entire leadership of the commission and subject the current board of commissioners to the public vetting, but instead they've been selected, and we don't understand the rationale for these magistrates for their positions to be considered vacant, when in fact these magistrates are the ones who run an election. They are on the grounds. They handle the supervision. They move materials around. They supervise the collation and tabulation of results. 1 year to the elections, we asking them to reapply. If they're not competent, why are we asking them to reapply? If they're not competent, on what basis did we reach that conclusion? So this is the troubling nature of this proposed amendment. And we see this as an attempt by the legislature to interfere in the administrative running of the National Elections Commission.
All right, and so if you are one of the magistrates in one of the counties, what will you be saying, or what will you be telling Liberians?
I will be telling Liberians the legislature have a constitutional mandate to make laws. But laws must address a particular problem. They should inform the public what is wrong with the magistrate offices. At this point in time, close to 1 year before elections, we should resign and reapply. They need to give us the rationale for that preposition.
What do you think might be the motive?
We don't know, and that is the reason why it creates a dark cloud around the running of the elections. And because we've not seen this before, this is quite new, and already there are huge public perception about the independence of the NEC, and now come a piece of law that will be creating vacancies and allow people to reapply. It is not timely. It sends a very negative image, and it runs the risk of putting this country into trouble. If the public, because during election time, perceptions become realities, and so we need to be mindful how we handle the administrative component of the elections, given the fact that next year's election will be highly contested, and we don't want any trigger that will have a potential to create violence in the country.
What have you discussed anything with the legislature before, as the process is ongoing? Have you had meetings with them? Have you called the leadership of the legislature from both houses? Have you expressed some of those concerns with them? If you don't, what are they telling you?
Unfortunately, our lawmakers, who should be serving the interest of the public, they are not easily accessible. So when this proposition came out, I personally made several calls to several senators, and I didn't get through, and those calls were not returned. And so we then opted to go to the public, and with the assumption that when we go in the media, they will listen to the radio, and then our issues will be heard, and hopefully they will take some action against it.
They are leaders of statutory and other committees at the legislature. To be specific, the lower house, you have chair of election, I think it's going to be for if I'm making a mistake. Have you spoken with you?
To be honest, no. But we learned that the joint committee, meaning the committee from the Senate and the House, that joint committee is currently reviewing the amendment that came from the Senate. We have gone public on this matter, and I'm sure they listen to the radio. We've called on that joint committee not to endorse that particular provision, and to consider it an administrative matter, and that the recruitment and supervision of members of the magistrates, those procedures should be administrative rather than trying to make it legalistic.
All right, before we transition to the biometric thing that they talked about a few days ago or a week ago, let me ask you this question. The proposed amendment also call for that diaspora Liberian to register. Did you see that? What do you make of that?
It is a right of all Liberian citizens to participate in the country's electoral process. The diaspora voting, I support it legally, but I find it very challenging administratively to see how the NEC is going to manage it. And the law should not be placing additional burden and challenges on the NEC that is already under-resourced to be able to manage diaspora voting. This is, again, a tricky issue that needs to be studied and the pros and the cons weighed so that we are not adding additional burden on the NEC in the administration of elections.
All right. So about a week ago, the Election Commission Chairperson, David Robinson, had a press conference and released a statement that the NEC will embark on a biometric voter registration process ahead of the May registration processes. What do you make of that?
The ECC, in our 2018 final observation report from the 2017 elections, did recommend the transition from manual voter registration to biometric voter registration. So with the pronouncement, we welcome that transition. We welcome it with caution. And this is close to a year before elections. And even though biometric voter registration helps to improve the quality of election hearing, it does not solve all the problems that are associated with the election management. So as a nation, we need to proceed in a proper fashion and in a timely manner so that we can mitigate some of the risks that go with the installation, the purchase and installation of biometric voter registration technology. We would have loved if the NEC would have informed the public on the model of the biometric voter registration system that has been selected. We need to be informed. It's a combination of facial and printer recognition or fingerprint recognition. What is that model? Who are the vendors? And so that due diligence can be done to check the track record of the vendors and whether or not these vendors have an experience or competence in the management of biometric voter registration system. We need to be informed on the cost. And we need to be informed if the government has committed the resources that are required for the purchase and installation of this system. Because if it would not mitigate some of these risks, we would be spending money and not having value from it.
All right, so I mean, you say you welcome that call with caution. Does that mean are you looking at the timeliness of it or maybe the openness of the process?
Both the timing and the technical assessment of the vendor. Because experience will tell you, vendors will tell you how experienced and competent they are in the management of the system, but they will be doing it for financial gains. And that's why it's important that we are informed as a nation on the potential vendors, or if a vendor has been chosen, what is the name of that vendor, so we can do some independent assessment on the performance, on the track record of the selected vendor. And the time that we are now experimenting with is supposed to October is not far from now. We need to purchase the biometric system sooner and install it, test it, do some dry run tests to see its capability, to see whether it's adaptable to our current infrastructure in the country, both IT and road condition. And so there are a lot of things that need to be put in place to make the NEC prepare for the management of the system.
So in a clear tone, what can you say to that on the biometric registration process? What can you say? I mean, should we halt it for now? What can you say?
It's a very tricky tricky situation, and we have thought this thing would have taken place a year and a half ago. To be able to install this thing, to run it and test it, pilot test and all of that. But unfortunately, we're now 1 year before the elections, and I don't know whether, we welcome the transition, but we're worried. So in a simple term, we're worried. Biometric, it do not solve all electioneering problems. They only a part of the solution.
Okay. So, if the legislature is looking critically at the current provisions for amendment, will you recommend them to also consider that, even though it may not be in the law, but to consider that and give some direction, if not some instruction to the NEC?
Well, I don't think the use of biometric verification should be legalized. I think that's an administrative process. So we leave that to the NEC to decide. They don't want constitutionally, they are established to manage elections. So we leave that decision to the NEC. And now they've come up with it. We just have to identify some of the risks and then try to find mitigating factors so that we don't invest and don't get the desired results.
Thank you. So let's close up on this note. You have called over the years that the NEC shouldn't be adjudicating election cases, that there should be an independent body set up outside of the NEC to adjudicate election cases. For example, if there are election disputes in Nima, for example, that shouldn't come to NEC, hearing office from the county, comes to maneuver to the hearing office before the Board of Commissioner, before to the Supreme Court. It takes a lot of time. Now that the legislature is amending provision within the election laws, what could you say to that?
The problem with the adjudication of electoral complaints is squarely grounded in Article 83C of our Constitution. It says all electoral petitions start with the NEC and is managed by NEC. We have struggled to call on previous governments for to amend that particular provision, because without the amendment of that provision, NEC will continue to hear electoral disputes, electoral petitions, and we will say it borders on conflict of interest. It does not render any transparency and credibility in these election grievances. So until we can amend Article 83C, we stuck. But we can have to modify. So for instance, in the coming election this year, the Board of Commissioners can see reason to set up an independent tribunal that will work under the supervision of the NEC. But these should be judges, experienced judges, retired judges, or as the current amendment in the law that is being debated, to have the magistrates from across these are not election magistrates or court magistrates from across the country to form part of a panel of judges, because now these judges understand the serious procedure laws, and so they can be better placed to speedily adjudicate electoral petitions. So again, that is the easier way out, the most feasible way, but best scenario is to relinquish that constitutional power to the NEC to hear its electoral petitions.
All right. So finally, you say the issue of the law that talks about the vetting process says how the registration process should go on. You like order that. So on the what would be your final statement, your final word, as it relates to the current amendment processes ongoing now?
We do not object to the legislature making laws, because that is their constitutional mandate. We only admonish them that laws are made to address particular problems, and that the amendments to the new election law, those amendments must be proactive, must be responsive to the current political reality. And we're going to election next year. We cannot create dark clouds over the outcome. Our peace is still fragile, and nobody should think that by conducting 3 consecutive elections since 2005, our democracy is strong. It's still fragile. We need to be careful. We need to ensure that we mitigate at all costs any risk of electoral violence.
Thank you so much. So that is the voice of Councillor Oscar Bloh. He's the chairperson of the Election Coordinating Committee in Liberia. He has been speaking with us on the current amendment ongoing at the legislature, the election law portion of it is been amended. So he has some observation on the one that talks about magistrate having to resign after the law is passed, 90 days after the law is passed. So he's been talking to us. My name is Prince Mulbah. You've been watching Focus on Liberia, based in Atlanta, Georgia, the United States of America. Let me say thanks to our CEO, Mr. Dennis Jar, for providing this opportunity, and also thanks to Mr. Anthony C., who is the operation manager, and thanks to Mr. Theo Williams in Liberia as country director. Once again, my name is Prince. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.